For much of history, the UN has been in the center of important meetings, discussions, and resolutions for different nations. Over time, it has been the background for some of history's most famous foreign relations events. But what is the UN and why should we care? On today's episode, we look at how the UN works and why it matters. First, let's look at why the UN was made. The year is 1945, and the world has just been in the midst of a cruel 9 year world war. It doesn't look like it will ever end, and the casualties keep rising until America absolutely obliterates Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the war does indeed end. Peace is in the air. But now the leaders of the world have to get together and ensure that another destructive world war does not happen again. So they all get together in a meeting like this one and then decide to start the UN. And here is the UN Charter, which shows exactly what the UN stands for, and that is people working together in harmony. The UN has two major roles. Firstly, it works with aid and development in countries to ensure they can live a more prosperous life. They mainly do this through the Sustainable Development Goals, which show different ways that the world can progress together. The other, more important goal is to keep world peace and work for conflict resolution. In this way, the UN can be a body for countries to work together towards peace. So first, let's look at the General Assembly. The General Assembly has members from all 193 member states, making it the biggest coming together of foreign policy relations. In the General Assembly, they talk about almost every possible topic, and they do this through the resolutions, which are recommendations to the Security Council. Because of the General Assembly, the world can work together to solve common problems. Next, let's talk about the International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice is similar to a normal courtroom that you would expect, except it's different in one way. The opposing parties are countries. This is a real picture of the International Court of Justice, which has 9 judges, and they all work to solve conflicts between countries. Two famous cases of the ICJ is one when Iran was prosecuted by America for keeping some American hostages during the Iranian Revolution. And another case is when India prosecuted Pakistan when an Indian spy or alleged Indian spy was sent to a death sentence because of espionage charges. The problem with the ICJ is that the rulings are non-binding, therefore they can't really enforce their procedure on any country. Now let's talk about the Security Council, which is considered the most important. The Security Council has 15 member states, including the P5 nations, which are always there. Their main roles include making binding resolutions for countries to follow, and taking care of the UN peacekeeping forces. The UN peacekeeping forces are forces that are international and are sent to developing nations or developed nations with conflicts, and their only job is to maintain the peace in that area. The P5 nations are America, UK, China, France, and Russia, and they have veto power. So if they do not like a resolution, then they can simply veto it and it will be removed. This was a big problem during the Cold War, as the US and the USSR always vetoed almost every important resolution. Therefore, nothing was done during that time. Now let's talk about ECOSOC, or Economic and Social Council. ECOSOC mainly works with economic and social problems such as poverty, injustice, and development of countries. They mainly work to make the world a better place to live in for all that live in it and are part of the UN. They meet once a year, but there are many subsidiary bodies such as the UN Human Rights Council that work throughout the year. Now we must talk about the Trusteeship Council, which actually does not exist anymore because there are no more colonies for it to work with. The Trusteeship Council was made to help former colonies, such as African countries, to become decolonized. This is a map that shows what the world looked like in 1945, and it was high time at that point that countries should become decolonized. Therefore, the Trusteeship Council did work with these new countries to work with elections and work with the constitution to ensure they could smoothly become a new nation. Lastly, we need to talk about the UN Secretariat, which has an important role in setting the agenda for the UN's decision-making bodies such as the GA and the ECOSOC, and ensuring that these decisions are implemented in the subsidiary bodies. The Secretary General in Manhattan is in charge of the UN Secretariat, ensuring everything goes smoothly during these UN conferences. So, how does the UN matter in the present day, especially since we haven't had a world war in a while? Well, most of the problems that we face today are similar to this picture. They're worldwide. And therefore, we need a body that works worldwide to make sure countries work together in this interconnected and globalized world we live in. The main role the UN plays now is an influence because it is a forum for all the countries to work together. And it will play a major role in the future problems that we will see in the future, such as artificial intelligence, globalization, immigration, and global warming. Thank you for watching. Hope you learned a bit.